Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Grad Centric Podcast. Today, we're going to get back on the train of discussing student loans. And today, I want to talk about a specific profession, which is doctors. Medical professionals have a lot of opportunities when it comes to student loans that uh, aren't really opportunities that other professions will be able to utilize in the same way. So let's talk about some of those specific benefits as a medical professional. Before we start there, though, let's talk about student loans in general for medical professionals. As you might imagine, doctors come out with a significant amount of student loan debt, way more than the average in terms of just someone that goes and gets an undergraduate degree. They're coming out with around $30,000 in student loan debt. Give or take. I mean, that number changes year to year, about 30,000. Well, if we look at the Association of American Medical Colleges, the AAMC, they're telling us in a recent report that the average for a doctor is more along the lines of about $200,000, which is a significant amount of debt. And if my professional experience tells me anything, that debt can be way higher. 200,000 is not a lot compared to some who come out and maybe lived in a high cost of living area when they were in their training or in medical school, can come out with a lot more than 200,000. But that's what that recent report shows us. And that's an interesting place to start. So as you can imagine, there's a double-edged sword when it comes to doctors. On one hand, you're coming out with a lot of debt. On the other hand, though, you're going to make a pretty good salary when you get out. Now, granted, depending on your specialty, you might be making more or less. You may be going to an area of passion or working for a nonprofit that may not pay as much. But certainly you can make a lot of money. And then if, let's say you meet someone and get married in medical school, you could have a 2-doctor income household. You could be making a significant amount. So there is kind of a double-edged sword. You're coming out with a lot of debt, but you're getting a good return on investment. And so I like to say, doctors that are going through medical school and becoming doctors and actually making it through, they're going to be pretty well off. And this $200,000 in debt, not to say it's insignificant, but with the amount of income that you're going to be able to draw as a physician, it's certainly manageable. And so what does that mean? Well, we tend to see doctors take two different paths when it comes to student loans. One path is payoff. As you might imagine, some individuals don't want to go and get public service loan forgiveness, which we'll talk about here in a second, and they just want to pay off their loans. And there are still perks for those doctors. As you might imagine, doctors with their high income levels are attractive to banks, credit unions, financial institutions. And so they tend to get perks in terms of maybe no money down mortgages, also refinance rates. And so for those individuals coming out with a lot of student loan debt, they may have opportunities to refinance, for instance. They also might have opportunities to get income relatively quickly out of residency, either in a specialty area or just starting to practice as a physician and starting to pay down those student loans so that the interest isn't really kind of accruing and ballooning like you might see in a public service loan forgiveness situation. So payoff is certainly one option. Another option, though, which dives deeper into the area of strategy, is public service loan forgiveness or other forgiveness programs, because public service loan forgiveness is not the only forgiveness program that's available to doctors, but public service loan forgiveness is certainly one that we talk about regularly with physicians as a strategy. And where it gets really interesting is when we look at the training period of doctors, we see that they have this interim period where they've graduated, they know a lot about medicine, but they're not what we call an attending physician, they're a resident. And residents don't get paid as much as full doctors, so to speak, or attending physicians, technically is what we should say. And so they get paid less, let's say about $50,000 to $60,000. Well, that crucial period, if you're going for public service loan forgiveness, is an extremely important period to plan ahead. And missteps in this area can really cost you thousands of dollars. And in some cases, make it where public service loan forgiveness is not really an attractive option once you become an attending physician. So what do I mean here? There's some strategies. Okay, so let's say you're a resident physician, you are working for a qualifying employer for public service loan forgiveness, something like a government or a nonprofit entity, and you are making 50 to 60,000. You can consolidate after you graduate, consolidate your loans, start making qualifying payments toward public service loan forgiveness in an income-driven repayment plan. So since your income is lower as a resident, you will be paying very relatively minor monthly payments towards your loans in an income-driven repayment plan. But guess what? You're making qualifying payments towards that 120 qualifying payments that you need for public service loan forgiveness. So if you don't do that, if you essentially forego that time and you just go into what we would call an administrative forbearance during residency, you could really penalize yourself during that time, miss out on a lot of loan forgiveness, and really maximizing your loan forgiveness from something like public service loan forgiveness. So that's something to consider. Another question that doctors pretty regularly ask is, during that residency period, what is the best repayment program that I should be in? And that really depends on your situation. And we talk pretty frequently about two in particular, revised pay-as-you-earn and pay-as-you-earn. So REPAYE and PAYE, revised pay-as-you-earn and pay-as-you-earn. And these two have different benefits. And for those that are in the industry like me that do student loan planning on a daily, weekly basis, I have a chart of all the different benefits and drawbacks of these programs. But to talk in generalities, if we're talking pay as you earn, one of the main benefits of pay as you earn is a cap on monthly payments. So when you enter into the program, there's essentially a cap on how much you can pay in monthly payments, regardless if your income shoots through the roof. Revised pay as you earn doesn't have that. Another difference between these two programs is whether you can file separately in order to report your income separately when you're doing an income certification, which is an annual process for an income-driven repayment plan. I know I'm throwing a lot of terms at you at this moment, but that's one of the other differences between these two programs. And so if you look at some of these benefits and drawbacks of these various programs, you'll start to know and start to realize as you do research and read that it really depends on what you want to do, especially once you get out of residency and become an attending physician. It really depends on what you want to do at that point. So for instance, if you want to get married, it could be a significant drawback that you're required to report joint income under revised pay as you earn. That could be something to consider in those scenarios. So certainly do your research there and, tag in a professional if you need to, that knows these income-based repayment plans, income-driven repayment plans very well. Can be kind of a confusing and complex period, but it should not dissuade you from taking action during the residency time, because again, those are really crucial years. Then the final thing that I want to wrap this up with, I like to keep these short, is that essentially the public service loan forgiveness is not the only loan forgiveness program for you to consider. So as a doctor, there are others. For instance, the military has really good income-driven repayment plan opportunity, or not income-driven repayment plan opportunities, but loan forgiveness opportunities. There's also the National Health Service Corps. There's the National Institute of Health. There's state-based programs, which if you check out my blog at gradmetrics.com, I've included that link in the blog post talking about student loans for doctors. Student loan issues for doctors. And so definitely check out that blog post. But I would tell you the AAMC is a great resource for doctors, not only within residency and some of the resources that they provide there, but also when you get out and you're a full attending physician doing what you love to do. They are a great resource in terms of helping you through this process. And of course, we're here as well. So if you'd like us to look at your situation, more than happy to do that. Definitely email us. You can email me at jason@gradmetrics.com, and I'm happy to look at your situation for you. Okay, that's it for this week, and look forward to more podcasts on how do you manage your student loan debt.